In our previous discussion videos, we talked about the paradigm of the linking of the separate realities of our current worldview to the next reality that is after the portal of death. And we diagrammed and we explained how the organic then is connected to the inorganic realities, and these form our link in the chain. Furthermore, in discussing the closing of the spiritual loop in the previous video discussion, we explained that how until you close the spiritual loop, it's only information flowing, even whether it's in meditation, prayer, whatever request and appeal is made from the organic side, it flows into the spiritual realm, into the inorganic side, and then information actually comes back from the inorganic or the spiritual side to the organic, but then until that spiritual loop is closed, we're not really prepared to understand the response, because prior to that, the information flowing in and flowing out is all, that's all it is. It's just information, and it's just an information flow. Whereas when you close that spiritual loop, then it becomes communication. So to further that understanding, we're going to take that just a little bit more in depth here, so as to be understood that the inorganic link in which death resides are really after which death is, because death is just a portal to the inorganic side, is a fully functioning environment, just as is our three-dimensional space. Of course, the functionality is of a greater inclusion than the organic side because it is by nature more dimensional. Consequently, destiny and the responsibility to create through destiny for the achievement of greater awareness on the organic side within the paradox lies in the domain of the inorganic. Now, on the organic side, since we use our eyes to see, and we also then mentally construct understandings from that, we are ourselves seers. And even in the deeper aspect that we can perceive and foretell things through events that aren't readily apparent to the naked eye, that makes us seers. And so just for the convenience of conversation here and explanation, we're going to say that the seers, that's us, on the organic side are connected to what in a Christian sense would be called a God, and other deities label it, or other religions label the deity in a different way, and we're just going to call it, for the sake of our conversation here, an overseer. So we are connected directly across the portal of death to an overseer through the channel of intent, which actually runs through our will. So our will then is at all times connected to a more greater will, or you could call it a more supreme will, however you want to call it. It'd be similar as through the process of quantum mechanics, the entanglement theory, that our will is entangled then with the greater will, and so those two are always tied. And this, once understood, helps facilitate the communication from the spiritual side to our organic side. So again, if we were to put this in a diagram type of situation, on the line that connects the organic side to the inorganic side, there would be on the inorganic side a bubble that we would label the domain then of the overseer or God, which purviews destiny and death, and then above that bubble linked to it is a label of which we call allies. Allies exist solely in the separate reality of the next link. There are allies connected to all persons, to each of us. They are inorganic beings. They're spiritual beings for which the most part are persons that we have already known. These allies are fully functional in their separate reality and aligned with our energies to bring us into a greater awareness and understanding of purpose. There is available to everyone a direct communication with allies through the channel of intent and a function of our will. With an intent, we can communicate with allies to intercede on our behalf. Now, this intersection may occur as events, thoughts, dreams, or actions. They also respond through signs and omens. But as I said, when these answers come back in these different forms, because we haven't closed that spiritual loop, we're not accustomed to that language and we're not used to and therefore not able or accurate in interpreting these responses. Allies, for the most part, will be known to us as ones who have already passed, with whom we shared both casual and intimate memories. Although they're inorganic, they're spiritual in nature, they remained gender specific. And the most effective and intense intersections is someone of the same sex. The closer the relationship has been with us on this plane, the more effectively they are able to serve as an ally. Then, below that bubble, remember that above that bubble of the overseer was allies. Well, right below that bubble, whether you call it overseer or God or whichever, below that is another bubble which we would label as destiny, because it is the overseer, the purview of the overseer to purview over destiny and death. And you have to remember, because our wills are entangled and there is communication that always takes place, well, part of that communication is the effect of destiny, so that nothing really incidental or nothing really accidental happens to any of us. And even though our ordinary daily events seem like us trying to navigate and negotiate just the material and organic realm, because we are connected, destiny is flowing continually and taking us on a destined path and bring us the opportunity of awareness on every event that occurs in our lives. And if we do it properly, we will go through our destined events in our lives, paradoxically, living the ordinary events and trying to perceive underneath the ordinary events to the extraordinary things that are taking place, or the spiritual side of any ordinary event that is going to help us gain awareness, whether it is exhibiting tolerance, compassion, or anything that is the evolvement and the changing of ourselves to better comprehend, better prepare, and better facilitate the gathering and harboring of a greater awareness. This awareness, as our inorganic side passes the portal of death into the inorganic or the spiritual realm, this is where the possibility of evolving occurs. It doesn't necessarily mean that evolution will take place, but barring this possibility to evolve, then our awareness is harvested and is understood to be the natural conclusion of our original obligation for which we agreed to this three-dimensional experience. So our handling of energy through this three-dimensional experience consists of the clarity and conviction of thought and intention, with the intention to willfully discipline the material side or the physical side so as to not waste energy, which is actually vital to the evolutionary process. Further, we may believe that all of our personal energy is vanquished at death, but this is not the case. In this understanding, our personal energy is guided towards perceiving the requirements of awareness. The requirements may simply be summarized as the necessity to lead a tightly disciplined and impeccable life. So if there is the consideration of evolution, again, after we pass the portal of death in the spiritual realm, then that evolution is recognized as having the awareness to choose and to foster, again, another very important choice, then to take that awareness even to a greater step through even greater dimensions of yet another link in nature's chain. Nature's chain itself has no end. Now, in our current theological mythology in many religions, it seems very binary. There's life, there's death, or there's life and there's death, and there's life in the same dimension, and it's just cyclical like that. But in fact, we are not the only realm where awareness exists. The chain itself actually has no end, and evolution proceeds with it. It exists as a sustaining force, a life force common to all separate realities. So then, considering that there would be, after we've passed the portal of death and we are in the spiritual domain, then there would be the choice, potentially once again, to further that awareness in another reality, a more dimensional reality, or even to agree to once again go through a three-dimensional reality in which then the awareness that we have already taken into the spiritual realm then would be harvested, and we would then go through this three-dimensional reality again as though it were completely new. This choice into whether it's this reality or even a further reality to evolve and gather even greater awareness or more three-dimensional awareness. This choice then leads to creation, creation to recreation. It leads to birth and birth to rebirth, and on the chain perpetuates. And from these choices, from this perpetuation, one of the first things that we learn then is how to take responsibility for our choices, which would be a topic for a further video discussion. So until that time, peace, comfort, and awareness, and I hope you're finding joy in your journey.